I believe at this point in time, our podcast is now a senior citizen.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Because, granted, I don't know exactly when you hit senior citizenry, but this is episode number 80.
It is.
So that's about the age you associate people becoming senior citizens, or at least they're already there at that point.
Yeah, they're definitely there by 80.
Yeah. They're in the twilight of life. Not like the book series. They're not turning into vampires and werewolves and all that stuff. But we got some other kind of wacky shenanigans planned for you today on our 80th episode. The Big 8-0 of your favorite podcast, Season Lamb Checkup OVA. Hello. I'm Jared, joined as always by... Well, I guess we are talking about one today. The Queen of Otome has returned. Doc Al and Ladium is here.
Hello.
This is a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. But we got quite a bit of stuff to talk about today.
We do. It's a full
slate.
Here.
You know what that means.
Hmm?
We're gonna reach into the grab bag. It's been a while since we had to get that old thing out, but we got quite a bit of stuff to talk about today. We got a couple DLCs we're going to talk about, and then we have a full game and then like a bonus game add-on to that full game we're going to talk about.
Correct.
Correctamundo. Obviously, we'll probably talk about the DLCs first, and then we will hit the main event a little bit after that, because those DLCs will be pretty quick to talk about.
Yeah, we'll have the side dishes, and then we'll get to the main course.
If you want to talk about food, yeah, that's the way it would be. Anyways, we are going to talk about today on our cool podcast that we do.
Our cool
podcast we do. We were talking about the recent Splatoon 2 DLC, the Octo expansion, the Xenoblade 2 DLC, and any of the other DLCs you want to talk about, because fair game.
That's all I got.
And then also, Al and I, we were just hanging out Sunday, and we're like, what are games on the PS4 that we could play together? And we racked our brain for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, hey, I have Hat of a Boyfriend. And you're like, oh, I also have that, but I've never played it. And I was like, I've never played it. And then one thing led to another, and we were like, let's play that. Let's go through that together.
And we did.
And boy, was that a wild ride.
It was wow.
So we'll talk about that, and then Holiday Star as well, the little bonus thing that you can get for the holidays. But to start off with, let's talk about some downloadable content. So I played the Splatoon 2 DLC, the Octo expansion. It is a new single-player experience for that game. Quite frankly, is probably the single-player experience that game should have had at the very beginning. It's a lot more fully featured, fully thought out than the original single-player experience was on the cart, which was just mostly kind of hey, you remember the single player from Splatoon 1? Well, it's kind of that again. Even to the fact where it's oh, these are the same bosses and everything.
Mm.
Which, you get the same bosses here again, but they're once again they're upgraded a little bit more, so there's a different challenge to them and all that. But it's got a really good aesthetic. It's you take all the Splatoon aesthetic and you mash it with the 80s aesthetic. So there's neon and like that. It's a really good mix up. And of course, the big thing about this is that you're playing as one of the Octolings, which is from in the lore of Splatoon. They are basically.
Is that a sentence you ever thought you would say?
There's a lot of lore in this story, which was also not a sentence I thought I would say.
All right, let's go.
I mean, I'm not like super big into like the lore of Splatoon. Like, not that like I don't think it's interesting, but it's just like
Mhm.
not something I've really sought out. I mean, that's probably a lot of stuff out there about it that people have like been chomping at the bit throughout the entirety of this game's release and everything. But for me, it was a little bit more interesting just because like I haven't really like kept up with that or really dove into it.
Mhm.
But you play as one of the Octolings, and in the lore of Splatoon, they are pretty much the enemies of like the Squid Kids and all that stuff. So you get to play as like one of them who has been converted because they heard like good pop music. That's essentially the. It's weirdly enough, their kind of explanation for it reminded me a lot of Caligula.
Huh.
To where it's like, oh, if you hear like this certain music, it can change your mind and get you to become like one of the more peaceful people who just wants to go out and do turf wars and stuff like that. Which is not a comparison I was thinking I was going to make at all between those two forms of media.
It's hilarious.
But yeah, like essentially you're stuck in like a subway, like a train station, and the only way to get out is to get on this train, and there's a phone that was like, hey, if you find these things, THANGS,
Thanks.
you'll be able to get out, but obviously some shenanigans happen along the way. And then you go through like about 80 missions. That's about as many as that you get. You don't have to do all of them. Like you can pretty much get like all the things and then bust out that way. But if you do all the missions, you get like bonus equipment that you can use later on in the multiplayer, which is cool. And then there's a lot of like good, interesting story that is like sprinkled out through like these little chat logs that you get, which are real good. It's just a lot of fun. So it definitely, like I said earlier, it definitely seems like the way the story mode should have been like right off the get go. But obviously, with that thing coming out pretty soon after the Switch's launch, like it makes
Right.
sense that this kind of had to get pushed back and not brought out till now. Like if Splatoon 2 had been like maybe a game that came out this year, like it probably would make sense to have those things included. But real interesting, like very cinematic in spots that I was also not expecting. And they do some like real interesting things with like just the puzzle design and like the final encounter you do, where they turn it into like the multiplayer part of the game, kind of. Where it really comes with like, oh, this is a turf war, and it's like, okay, this has never been a thing in any of the single player before. And also, they bring back the character that you play as in Splatoon 1.
Really?
I mean, obviously, it's not the same because like you can't transfer the save over from the Wii U to the Switch, but it's like, oh yeah, this is like Agent 3 is the character you play as in Splatoon 1, and they are the character that's missing in this like stories part, so that's a weird thing to tie it all together. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like way more than I was anticipating, considering like I got through all the story stuff in the original story parts of Splatoon 2, and it was okay, but like it was basically a lot of like take it or leave it, except for maybe like the final boss. Like that was probably like the coolest part. But this was like it was challenging and frustrating, at parts, just because like those puzzles can be that way. But I think overall, like I had a really good time with it, and just the way they expand on the story and make it a lot more cinematic, make it feel like an actual single player experience. I think it's well worth the $20. I think it has how much it is to get that thing if you already have Splatoon 2. So yeah. Speaking of DLC, there was Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has been getting DLC
Pretty
pretty
regularly.
regularly throughout the course of the year. If you have the what is the expansion pass, I think is what it's called, or
Yeah.
this whatever they want to call their season pass. But they premiered that trailer for the big story mode DLC that they're going to put out in September at E3. I believe it was a day after we recorded our podcast last
I'm
week.
pretty sure, yeah, because we recorded on
Tuesday.
Tuesday? And then
No, it was Wednesday.
and then Treehouse did their like showing off of the new DLC pack, and then like, oh, by the way, it's gonna be out this weekend.
But I don't think we talked about it.
We didn't talk about it on the podcast.
If we did, then sorry.
We didn't. And even then, like, I have more to say about it now.
Right. But yeah, like they announced that thing, and then they were doing a little bit about it on Treehouse, and then they're like, oh, by the way, we have a new DLC that's coming out, in a couple of days. Here's what it's going to be about, and some familiar faces showed up. Yeah,
basically they're like, so there's a challenge mode, but what you really care about is that, hey, look, you're Shulk and Fiora, and I'm like, woo!
I saw the image on Twitter of Shulk in the Xenoblade 2 engine. I was like, that's not right. And I was like, wait, that's from Nintendo. Mm-hmm. And I immediately was like, ow, turn on Treehouse right now.
I'm pretty sure there was like loud screeching throughout my entire apartment at that point.
Yeah, totally believe it.
So basically what they were telling us on Treehouse is that there's a series of challenge modes that you go through, and by going to this land of challenge, you can somehow unlock Shulk and Fiora as new blades for use in the main game. And I was like, well, that's freaking cool. And also they said that you can get alternate costumes.
Yeah.
And so I stayed up late and downloaded it.
Which isn't really a big surprise that you stayed up late.
It's not, but I think I ended up staying up until like 6 a.m. playing it.
Also not a surprise when you get into, when Al gets into Xenoblade mode, it's like she's
dangerous.
Gone.
It's real dangerous. So I've been playing it, and I will say that I have completely unlocked Shulk and Fiora. Like, they can go with me out into the Xenoblade 2 world now. I don't know what this does with the canon because of, spoiler alert, the end of the game. But I'm assuming that it's non-canon, technically. Anyway, so the whole gist of the DLC is that you're given this challenge mode, and you are supposed to go through. They limit your level, and sometimes they'll limit what characters you can use. And you're supposed to go through, and it unlocks like a bunch of really, really great accessories and some, what are they called? The aux cores for your blades. And then you can also go through and get new costumes, which do a lot for your blades. So it's really cool. And then, like I said, Shulk and Fiora are like the ultimate goal here.
Right.
And also, that led to some of my frustration. And by some of my frustration, I mean a lot of my frustration.
Yeah.
Because most of Shulk and Fiora's skill trees or affection charts or whatever they're called, I can't remember exactly, are tied to these challenge modes. And so you have to, one, keep playing them over and over and over and over. And once you've done like so many of these at this point, you're like, okay, this isn't really fun anymore. And some of them are just like stupid, like ridiculously stupid for no reason. And you're going in and like some of them will have you at level 60 taking down like level 99 enemies. And then like the one that I've been playing recently, I'm at level 98 and it has me taking down a level 150.
It's totally fair.
Yeah, so if anything goes wrong, it goes wrong very, very quickly. And, I mean, it's cool to get, like, alternate costumes. I like that. Like, Pyra actually having on clothes was kind of cool. But then, like, Morag has her dress uniform without the hat, and Brigid turns pink, and, Zeke turns into a JoJo character even more than he already is. Tora turns into Goku.
It's true. The 30th Goku.
He is the 30th Goku. So I mean, you get some really neat costumes, and they're not just like aesthetic costume changes. Like, they actually do alter the character's traits, which is kind of cool in my opinion. The bad thing is that you have to actually like remove an accessory in order to equip it. So if you have something set up really nicely, then you don't want to mess with that.
That's a bummer.
It is, but again, sometimes it's a really good one. Like I kept the candy stripe Nia on for a long time because it upped her healing by like 24%.
Oh,
But then when I was playing through the bonus challenges, I actually had them drop an item that was a bonus 27% to her healing. So I was like, okay, well, she's not going
well,
to be pink anymore. But for a while there, it really helped with her healing boost. So that was kind of nice. Um, so it's kind of irritating. Like Fiora's isn't nearly as bad as Shulk's is, because Fiora, a lot of them are like, you have to do 10 challenges, but previous instances of doing the challenges count. And then you have Shulk's, it's like, you have to do 30 challenge battles, but none of the previous ones count. And
super
so
dumb.
it's really dumb. And you have to go through, and that's another thing that was added. They have some new quests that were added. And like one of them is so helpful because you essentially make a love potion, and the love potion unlocks affinity charts like really, really quickly for
Hmm.
blades. And so I ran those through on Shulk and Fiora really quick so that I could have all their affinity chart unlocked, so that if anything, like if I went through and did one of the challenges, then it would pop.
And you wouldn't have to be like, oh, I got to redo everything again and again and again and again
Yeah,
and
because a lot
again.
of the ones that they ask you to do are the hardest ones. Like
Yeah.
there's some on Shulk, so I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Like I've failed many times on them.
Hmm.
And I mean, I guess some of the things that are good is like I realize that the guy on Treehouse, and I know he'll never listen to this, but I'm sorry if he ever does find out. But his builds were terrible, and like he kept talking about how hard this one battle was, and how like he if he did anything wrong, it was gonna end poorly for him. And I never use Morag ever, but I know that she's like a good evasion tank. And so I just like upped her evasion, and you're only allowed to have two characters. So I put Morag in as my playable character, and then I had Nia in as my healer. And like I literally just smoked it. It was ridiculous because nothing could hit me as Morag, and then Nia was always hitting or healing me if anything did hit me. And he went in there with like Rex as the healer. I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you ever have Rex go in as your healer? Like you need a tank. This is why you think these are super hard, is because you don't have a tank. But I've
Moral of the
spent.
story: Treehouse, hire Al. She'll help you with all your Xenoblade needs.
I mean, it's just a matter of like understanding what each character is built for and knowing like what you need.
So
And I
like to
did the
be
same
fair, like
thing.
I doubt that guy probably had as much like know-how about that stuff, maybe.
Maybe.
So
But like there was another one where you have to go in with two characters, and I went in with Tora built as like a stupid tank and Nia as my healer, and that one, I got through that one pretty fine.
mhm.
But it has led to me rebuilding a lot of my character setups. So although I will never ever get over what happened to me yesterday, I was so mad.
It's real.
It's real shit.
Well, the real part was when you had been playing for like what 6 hours, and then the game crashed because that you can't save in that challenge area.
You can't save in the challenge area, and I lost 6 hours of gameplay.
It's real dumb.
So dumb. So irritating. So anyway, there's some really irritating parts about this, but there's some also fun parts about it. And it's really nice seeing Shulk and Fiora again. That made me happy. One thing that I will give some intense criticism on is that Fiora has really, really, really bad boob physics in this. And she didn't have that in the first game. So like anytime she moves in a cutscene, it's just like her boobs just go like 8. And it's like, what is happening here? Why is this a thing? So she kind of got the Xenoblade 2 treatment, and that's really upsetting. Sorry, my cat is headbutting the microphone. But anyway,
He's also mad.
he is, because I mean, that's the one thing that I will continuously be upset with Xenoblade 2 on, is that, like, there is no need for the level of sexualization that's in that game. Like, zero need for it. And then, like, adding it into Fiora when she didn't have it in the first game is just
Dumb.
dumb. It's really, really dumb. So those are the only two new blades from this one. They've been adding more blades, like, as they've gone along. So, like, the Torna crew are all in the blade list now, which I have all those. I'm still missing one blade.
You are.
And I keep trying. And
But don't worry. Reggie says that loot boxes are pretty okay, so by the time Xenoblade 3 comes out, you'll have to pay for all those. And by that time, probably.
But see, that's the thing, is that I don't pay money for that kind of stuff. I will make myself insane when it comes to, like, trying to make it drop, but I will not pay for it.
Well, you won't get any blades next time then.
Mm-mm.
Because they'll all be loot boxes.
Mm-hmm. It's having, like, a 0.01 drop rate. It's insane. Yeah. That's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, it's good DLC. I'm not a big challenge person. I don't like that kind of stuff that much.
Right.
So mainly what I did was, like, get Shulk and Fiora and then get out, which, if anybody's listening to this and wants a tip, do the dinosaur challenge battle first. Because if you can complete that dino battle, then that's what unlocks them to go anywhere with you. So, you don't have to, like, keep redoing things. Fun fact.
That was the tip corner with Al. Sponsored by.
What were we sponsored by?
I don't know. I wasn't going to say anything. So we
Pasta.
didn't get in trouble. Sponsored by pasta.
That's generic.
Sponsored by cheese.
Ooh, that's a good one. What about pasta and cheese put together?
Mac and cheese.
No! Do not say that. It is macaroni. We are adults. Anyway, yeah, it's fun. And probably when we finish recording, I'll try and do some more challenge battles, because I redid Tora's build, and I'm pretty sure I can do this one thing as long as they don't, like, cheese me out for a minute.
As long as it doesn't kill you in, like, the last 5 seconds.
I will fight.
You will. Anyways, I believe that leads us now to our
main event.
Main event.
Woo!
Of the evening.
Oh my god.
Oh man. You know, we have covered a lot of Otome.
We have covered a lot of Otome.
Also, this I believe this is you have to update the ranking of Otome now.
Oh shoot, I do. Which, if you haven't noticed, we posted on Twitter that I officially have made my ranking of Otome as of whenever we posted it.
It was sometime last week.
It was sometime last week. I don't remember when. I had a whim, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna write this down. And I did. So
we do have now the official ranking of Otome.
And now I'll have to add this one on there somewhere.
I mean, we could do this live right now.
I'd have to look at my list real quick.
Well, let me pull up the list. That's the thing we can do live.
Live. I am also pulling up the list.
Hey,
by the way.
Look at this. It's right here. All right, let's dive into this. Do you have your list pulled up?
Working on it. I had to retweet something that you tweeted.
Okay. Hey, that's my phone going off.
All right, here's my ranking. I got it.
We're going to go from the bottom to the top.
Okay.
Is Hatoful Boyfriend better than Amnesia?
Yes.
Is it better than this Hakuki, the samurai one?
Yes.
Better than Bad Apple Wars?
Yes.
Better than Period Cube?
I'd probably put it around with Period Cube. So the question is it better than Period Cube? It might be better than Period Cube.
All right. Better than Psychedelica the Black Butterfly.
Nah, I think that's where it ends.
So, Hatoful Boyfriend, the number 6 best Otome game of all time.
Played by Al.
I mean, I believe that's just official anyways. You are the queen of Otome, after all.
It's true.
So
There's a new one coming out soon.
You're going to have to update that list and repost it.
Mm-hmm. I need to repost it anyway.
Congratulations to everyone involved. That is the top 10 best Otome games of all time.
Oh, you realize that like once we start getting past this, things are going to get bumped off the top 10.
I know. Then they'll at least be in the top 15.
Wow. Basically, the moral of the story is keep localizing Otome games.
I mean, there is a new Otome game coming out in 10 days.
I know. I'm real stoked.
Which we will probably talk about at some point in July.
Probably.
Most likely. Anyways.
Let's date some birds.
We dated some birds. Like we talked about the top of this episode. You know, we kind of just stumbled upon playing this game.
We're trying to find something to cheer me up, and we found this.
Yes. And also, like, something that we both owned.
Yep.
But had never played.
Correct.
It was something as well that, like, I knew there was some weird with this game. Like, I knew, like, on the surface, I was like, oh, date birds, what a joke. But, like, I knew underneath the surface, I was like, yo, crazy happens in this game. But I didn't know like, exactly what. I just knew, like, oh, it's stuff happens.
And I guess some backstory for a little bit. I was gifted this game by a friend because he knew that I played Otome games, and he's like, this would be a funny joke. And Richie, now I have played it, and I have been enlightened. It is no longer a joke. This is real.
For something that basically was created as a parody of Otome, does a good job of being Otome.
Oh, it nails being Otome. Like it. If there's nothing else that I've learned since I've really gotten into the genre, it's that things go off the rails like really, really crazy, and like there's just bananas nonsense that happens all the time, and I love it. Like they don't care what the story is. Like they just want it to be as wild as possible and just have you dating pretty boys, and I'm fine with that. Do some really interesting things when you stop caring.
And this pretty much does all that as well. Where like, you know, you get a bunch of routes. A lot of them go off in completely different directions. But also at the same time, once you get to the end, kind of come together in ways that you're not expecting.
Correct.
And it's just a wild, wild ride.
So, I guess we should give like a short summary of like what this game is in case somebody is unaware of what it is.
It's an Otome game.
It is an Otome.
All of the boys are birds.
All of them are birds. They're like pigeons and doves and
birds.
I don't remember what else they are.
Birds.
Yeah, they're birds.
You play as a human girl because the society that is happening in like the 22nd century is where birds became sentient
and intelligent,
and now humans and birds live together.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian the pigeon. They coexist.
They do.
And then you are the one human student that goes to St. Pigeonation's Institute
in Japan.
And you get your choice of birds to go hang out with and chit-chat with and try and romance.
And it's funny because they really do fall into like the archetype of Otome. Because you have like your childhood friend, and then you have like the snooty guy, and you have the quiet guy. Like you have all your archetypes here. It's hilarious.
It's yeah.
You even have your like yandere guy who wants to murder you all the time.
It's just wild that like I said, it's a parody,
It is a parody. It was meant as a parody.
and it just completely just like
Nailed it.
nails it. Because like that's a thing that can just happen in general, where like, oh, like we're doing a parody of a thing and just completely miss the mark.
Yeah.
But this just like completely just knocks it out of the park. I mean, it's one of the reasons why this thing has become so popular. Like
Yeah.
it's not something like, especially because like, otome is such like a niche genre. It's not something you'd expect to like blow up, at least in terms of like a singular game. But this basically is kind of like subverted all of that. But I think as well it helps that it has that parody nature of like, oh, it looks comical, it looks like a joke, but then once you get into it, it's like, oh no, this is some real Otome.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful.
So this has been around for a good long while. A demo version was originally released in Japan on July 31st, 2011. That came out worldwide on November 22nd of the same year. Hot of a Boyfriend Plus came out in Japan on August 14th, 2011. The complete edition came out in Japan on October 30th, 2011, worldwide February 15th, 2012. And then the remake came out on PC worldwide on September 4th, 2014, and then on PS4 and Vita on July 21st, 2015. It's a lot of places. A lot. Well, how should we dive into this thing?
I mean, I guess like we should give a somewhat like breakdown of each of the guys. I think that'd be a good start.
Or at least it's just how their routes go.
Yeah, like this is who they are and this is like
Yeah.
the main beats of their route. Like we don't have to go in depth about it because like this part isn't the in-depth part really.
Right. So the first one we kind of stumbled upon was Ryota.
Yeah, so the first one we decided we were just gonna make choices like on our own and see who we landed on. And we got Ryota, who is the childhood friend archetype.
Also,
Who
just like
also
the normalest route.
cross-dresses?
Oh yeah, cross dresses, but also like the most normal route of all of them.
Yeah, it's normal. It's a little sad, but it's normal.
It was like it in no way like just sets you up for like what's gonna happen. It's like, this seems pretty normal.
Yeah, no, it's pretty normal. Like they're childhood friends. They've grown up together. She saved him because he fell out of a nest at one point.
Mhm.
His mom is sickly, and he actually has pretty poor health. Like he says several times that his stomach is a little bleh. And so I mean it's the normal like childhood friend route, but it essentially ends on kind of like a downer note. Like you don't really date him per se. Like there's a confession.
And he's just like, I don't know about this.
Because like you confess right after like his mom died. So like I can understand being a little bit hesitant after that. But
Right.
it's interesting in the sense that he's like, I don't want to leave you because we have very different lifespans. And like that's the thing that I didn't even really think about when we got into dating birds. That like they do have different lifespans. Birds die a lot sooner than humans.
It's true.
So anyway, we got our first taste of dating birds when we dated our childhood best friend Dove, who also works at like a transvestite cafe.
He works at a lot of places.
He does work. He works at a lot of places.
Yeah.
He's a pure good boy.
Yeah. That is true.
Also, his art's pretty normal. Like they all have human art as well.
Up next there is Sakia, who is the rich character.
Yeah, he is face from Danganronpa, but dateable in this instance. He's French.
Hon.
He's French, and he is a fancy pigeon with a neat tail. His story was one of the last ones we got, actually.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like him. Like the entire time, I didn't like him. I don't think you really cared for him either. But he's kind of a jerk and obsessed with the fact that he's an aristocrat.
And a lot of his route kind of like goes into that.
Mm-hmm. He hates his brother.
I will say I was surprised how they were able to redeem him like in the late game.
Yeah, I agree with you. he gets better, but not in his route so much.
Yeah.
He gets better in the actual story.
Also, he gets jealous of Udon.
He does get jealous of Udon. Because his entire plot is that like he has been groomed to become like the successor of his family, and really all he wants to do is play music.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Hey, protag," which worth mentioning, our protag was named Butts McGee.
Buttzmc, capital G, E, E, E.
Yep. So he's like, "Butts, what do you love?" And she's like, "Udon.
Yeah.
I love udon. I eat it every day. It's great. I love udon." He's like, "I'm jealous of udon."
The best part is like he tells her this in where she lives in a cave.
Cave.
The abode.
The glorious abode. So I mean, it's an interesting story that like he's not as like dedicated to this whole aristocratic lifestyle as he puts off, but like I said, he gets better in the like actual story.
Up
Who's
next,
next?
the hashtag best boy.
Oh
Octo-san.
man. I mean, he's your best boy.
He is the best boy. There's
He's
no
your
debating it.
No, there's some
man. Octo-san is just a weirdo.
He does not have a human form.
Nope.
His human form is just a bird in the school uniform.
He only says "coo," but everything gets translated into what he's actually saying. He's the track star because he runs very fast, and then every time he runs away, you hear.
He's super athletic and super obsessed with pudding.
Which in his route, you basically start to learn like what he believes is pudding.
Yeah. It's like his religion.
Yeah, it's really something.
It made me actually like go and get tapioca pudding out of my fridge yesterday.
It's true.
Because he just kept talking about pudding. I'm like, I want some pudding. He's ridiculous. I love it. He's your fave.
Yeah. After that is the teacher.
Okay.
Nagaki. Who basically is asleep half the time.
Yeah, he's always asleep, and he's.
Wait, no, Nagaki's the library kid. Never mind. Sorry. Kazuaki is the teacher.
Okay.
Flip-flopping. So let's talk about teacher first, and we'll go to the library.
Okay, so teacher is Kazuaki. And he's, like you said, always asleep. He's like a math teacher.
Or just their homeroom teacher?
I'm not sure which he
both?
is.
I don't know.
I think he's both, but he's kind of like reserved and
aloof.
Yeah, aloof. I mean, it's not really, and you don't learn basically anything about him on his route.
You learn like he's hiding stuff, and he's suspicious. Like he knows more than he's letting on.
Correct. And at one point, the protag finds a picture with his phone that like has somebody scribbled out, and he's like, "This is why I can't love anybody ever again. I lost this person, and I don't want to lose anybody." And then he says, like, basically, when you graduate high school, come and find me again. Which, I mean, I always have issues with like the whole dating the teacher thing.
Right.
I did respect at least that he's like, let's wait until you're older. Then we'll see. Like, that made me feel a little bit better, but it was still a little weird.
Yeah. But like you said, like you don't learn really anything at all.
No, we were both like, okay, we know nothing about him. Something's going on with him.
And you don't learn that until like the very
end.
Speaking of characters you don't learn a lot about during their route, there is the library kid Nagaki.
Yeah, so he's a quiet guy who loves books.
He's in the library.
She begins to suspect that he lives there.
Just too far off.
not too far off. Um, he was one of my favorites in general.
I like before we got to the end, I was like, I was real curious of like what exactly they were going to do with him because he has his route and then like nothing else afterwards. Like,
Yeah.
he's basically just never brought up again unless like it's just like, oh, I'm in the library for whatever reason.
Hmm.
So that was like, it was real like weird because like he was the second person I believe we did,
He was the second person we dated.
but it was like after that I was like, oh, just forgot about him. I guess I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, because everybody else pops up within other routes, and he just doesn't.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it makes sense because he's dead.
Yes. That's the big reveal of his.
He's a ghost. He's
But even then, like in his route, you don't like you get like, oh, I probably killed myself, but you don't get a reason of like why or like how.
He says he probably killed himself, and then he feels like he can't leave the library because that's where he did it. Because he tries to go out the front door but can't.
Yeah.
Although I think at one point in his route he mentions that he can go vertically.
I don't think that's in his route.
It's not in his route? Okay.
I think it's later.
Okay. Anyway, he can't leave the library from what he thinks. He can't leave the library. Like I said, I liked him. I thought he was neat.
Yeah. But again, like more unanswered questions that aren't basically answered in his route, but they will pop up again.
A lot. He's actually one of the most significant characters of the game.
Yeah. After that is Yuya.
Okay. The older brother.
The older brother of Sakuya. He is the flirtatious third year. And
he is basically the common born of the two from what we are told. So what they say is that they have the same mom.
Right.
But Sakuya has like the fancy aristocratic dad, and then Yuya doesn't. So that's what we're told in their routes. And Yuya, you don't really learn a whole lot about. I mean, you know that he cares a lot about his brother, even though his brother is like, he hates him, basically.
And that he's like working with like some secret society or something. He's working behind the scenes like with doing something where like you learn, I think it's in his route or like another one of the other routes where like there's this whole political thing between like two different parties and he's working with one of the parties. Yeah,
there's the Hawk Party and the Dove Party. And so you find out that he's like an agent.
And like the whole like divide there is that like the Hawk Party wants to get rid of humans and the Dove Party wants to like coexist with humans.
Correct.
So yeah, you learn like he's doing some weird stuff in his route, basically.
I liked him.
Yeah.
His blue hair and fake glasses.
After that was the person that we booed a lot.
Shu.
The doctor. AKA hashtag the worst.
The worst. Literally every time he came on the screen, we booed. He's so creepy.
He's very creepy and not very nice. He does some things.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah, some things.
Like feed your friend twice.
Well, once, but you have to do that. You have to do his ending twice.
Right.
And maybe kind of casually cut your head off.
It's not even maybe. He cuts your head off.
And then puts it in like a glass jar.
If you total up the times that he cuts your head off, he cuts your head off 3 times.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
It's really not romantic.
No.
Don't cut off the head of the lady you're trying to woo.
Definitely do not. After that is one of the characters that you have to kind of like go through a couple routes to get. And I believe, I think we might have been pronouncing his name wrong.
Yeah, probably.
Because the Japanese is Onheru. So maybe it's on Yale
On
because
Yale.
he is Filipino.
Hmm.
But he is, man, he is the Chunibyo character of this game, and boy, is this something.
His route was hilarious. She calls him the Filipino banana man several times.
Yes.
Um, he's a bleeding heart, so he has like a red thing on his chest, so people always think that he's actually bloody.
He calls himself the sinful crimson angel of Judeca.
And he calls the protag something.
Ida Blau.
Yeah, like everything about his entire story is basically him like following a deep evil within the school and bringing the protag along for the ride, but it's like all steeped in like mythology and insanity.
He basically believes he's like wrapped up in like a huge fantasy like RPG or something like that.
Yep,
Also, he's in the manga club.
he is in the manga club.
Mm-hmm. And his route ends in a very interesting way.
It's an RPG battle.
It turns into a RPG boss fight.
It's a turn-based battle.
Man,
It's so good.
real good.
Oh man, we were losing it.
Because it's not something you expect.
No, he was wonderful.
And then it does that, and you're just like, oh, okay. We're going there.
So good.
Yeah, he was a fun one.
His was one of my favorites just because of how ridiculous
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. After that, we meet a girl bird.
We do meet a girl bird, and I thought we were gonna get to date her, but we didn't.
No, we just help her with her relationship issues.
Or if we don't help her with her relationship issues, then we join an all-girl delinquent
Gang.
motorbike
Yeah.
group gang thing that follows all traffic laws.
It's real good. That is Azami,
Hmm.
who you meet after you just go running, and then she's like, "Hey kid, I got a scooter. I could take you back to town."
Like the cut of your jib.
Carved into your soul.
Carving in your soul. And she follows all traffic laws, and she's a takoyaki saleswoman.
Yes. And she's been looking for another character named Rabu, who you meet when you get the job at the
The Bird
bird cafe, and he was like a former gang leader who's gone on the straight and narrow because he wanted to make sure he was out of that life after like Azami confessed to him. He was like, "I'm gonna go get some real jobs, save some money, and then I'll be okay." But then I didn't say anything to her, and oh god, and then she confronts him like, "What the f?" So yeah, then like you get the choice of like, oh, if you don't help them or you don't help her, you get that all girl delinquent traffic abiding biker gang. But if you do, like they end up getting together, and it's real nice.
So good.
It's real good. After that, I believe the only one left is the bonus character they added,
Yeah,
which is Tori.
which we accidentally got.
Yeah. Because I accidentally hit the wrong thing. I was like, oh, whoops, we're going into this then. He's just a weirdo who's very colorful and wants to take out the doctor. Which, I mean, granted, hey, more power to him. But also, it's like this weird delusion of grandeur where he's like, I'm going to exact revenge on him because he knows who I am. And it's going to be glorious. And then Butts is just like, he has no idea who you are.
Yeah, he has no clue.
He's like, what? What do you mean? That can't be right. It's a weird one, to say the least.
Yeah, it didn't leave as much of an impact. I actually forgot about him until we got to the second like pack of it.
Because he shows up a little bit more frequently.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that. That's pretty much all the characters you get in the main game.
Yeah. So then after you've dated everybody, you can start the BBL, and basically
Bad boys love.
you start a new route, and it's like, do you want to live a normal life or fulfill a promise? And you have to say that you'll fulfill the promise to start this route,
Mhm.
which I was like really confused on. And then things just get crazy.
Where like it changes the text box to a different color, it changes the wording of hotful boyfriend to hurtful boyfriend,
Hmm.
and everything goes completely haywire. Because I mean, I guess if we get into spoilers here,
Yeah, we're going to get into spoilers.
uh, the protagonist dies.
Yeah, so she's told that Ryota is not feeling well, and so he went to the infirmary. So she goes to check on him, and then like the next day, Ryota's like, "Hey, Teach, where is she?" And like, "Oh, she didn't show up today." And turns out that like, "Hey, maybe you should go get this box of stuff for me. I need this box." And then like, I'm bloody, but I don't hurt anywhere. Why am I bloody? Opens the box. Oh, this is her head.
Yep. And all the other classrooms have been distributed to other various parts of her body.
Yeah, like parts of her leg and things like that.
And then like the entire school goes under lockdown, and everyone's very confused. Like a dome just like covers the entire school.
Yeah, they told her is a state of emergency and to stay in the gym.
So basically, after that, it becomes like you play as Ryota, and you and Sakuya go around trying to investigate what's happened.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out who the murderer was and like what the dome's about.
Yeah. All the while, you get the actual reveal of like who the janitor is, One,
Hmm.
who's been working with
Hmm.
Yuya, who you kind of know they've been working together through Yuya's route, but you get to learn that his actual name is Leon JB, and he's like a high ranking like spy who's been planted in the school to make sure there's like no other like Hawk Party members like infiltrating the school. And Yuya's working with him obviously because they're in the same party. So he becomes like a big informant to help the two of them, and basically they're going around investigating everything. There's like a giant scarecrow that shows up.
Hmm.
That's like a robot and like is trying to just destroy them. So like that becomes a deterrent along the way. Also, they basically learn to like, oh, some weird shit's been going on at the school, especially with like the history of the school.
Hmm.
And then
And we also find out that the protag died of asphyxiation, but she wasn't like choked physically, and she was dismembered after she died.
yes,
Um,
all the while like
I,
basically Ryota's like, oh, I bet the doctor did this.
yeah, which I mean, like, it's a solid guess.
And also because like they question him and Yuya. They're like,
Hmm.
hey, did she show up to the infirmary? And they're like, nope, no, she didn't. Totally
Hmm.
didn't. Except like the knowledge of like, oh, before the protagonist switch happens, she heads to the infirmary.
Hmm.
And Ryota's like, well, this is a little bit weird. I don't think they're necessarily telling the truth, but I don't know. But as the player, you're like, oh, they're definitely lying because she
They're
definitely
lying.
went there. Along the way, Ogosan's like, hey, I saw some weird person show up yesterday. They were like bloody, and I think they were heading to the infirmary. So you get like a red herring there of like, well, who is this? And then it turns out it's just Angel because he's got
Hmm.
his little blood splotch on his chest.
Which I called, by the way.
Yes,
Um,
but also like,
they
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say go ahead because I was gonna go into story bits.
That's exactly what I was gonna do.
I was gonna say they go to the headmaster's office at one point,
Okay, they go to the headmaster's office at one point and realize that he's dead
and that everything was pre-recorded.
because the headmaster gives him a message like, oh, there was a state of emergency, a natural disaster happened. Please stay in the gym. And like doesn't answer them or anything. And they go up there like, oh well, he was murdered.
Yep.
They find like a control panel for the dome, and then some
Some
files
files.
on Operation Hatoful.
And then the file on the transfer student,
Yes.
which is rigged with a bomb.
Yeah. So they take that back to Leon. He's like, "Hey, can you do this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got this,"
And then Yuya gets onto the panel.
and hacks it to open it up. So like they were going to go and escape, or at least I think one of them was going to go up and just like see what was going on, because they look up and like, oh, well, that's blue skies. Like nothing seems to have happened out there. A few of the students like somehow get out into the field and are like, what are we doing cooped up in the gym? There's a hole up there. Let's get out of here. So one of them flies up and then bang, you hear a gunshot, and the bird that flew up there is dead.
Yep.
And then the hatch closes right afterwards. So they're like, well, that's weird.
Yeah. So we find out that the human representative, which is the protagonist, that she was like basically like a goodwill gesture type scenario. And so she was attending the school, but if she were to die, then the campus gets sealed off, the humans will arm themselves, and then they will sacrifice everybody in the school.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be the moment that they discover that she's dead.
And then like 12 hours after the dome encapsulates the school, that's when the dome will come down and the humans will storm in.
Yep. So we're on a time limit now.
We're very much on a time limit. So basically they're like, well, we need to find out more information about this. So they go to the library. And before they'd gone to the library, and Ryota was like, I feel like there's someone here. Or at least I feel like I'm hearing someone. And then he becomes attuned to Nagaki and is able to see him. And Nagaki gives him a little bit of help, like, oh, by the way, if you want to find the right encyclopedia, it's behind the counter. And they find out, like, oh, there's this like whole medical center that was originally with the school, but it got burned down in a fire 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So like they go to like the other building and snoop around, find like another encyclopedia there, and
yeah, they find out that this one has 2 6s and the one in the library had 2 9s.
So they find that, I think a little bit like more information, but not a whole lot, because they can't get to the downstairs where the medical center was because it's been walled off.
Yep.
Also, the Scarecrow shows up again, and they're like, we gotta go.
Oh, how do you pronounce it? Aniel?
Sure.
He says that he did see Protag at the infirmary at this point as well.
So now they know, like, oh, something's up, but they don't know what.
Correct. If I remember correctly, at this point they split up so that they can like distract and he can get to the infirmary, right?
Yes. So Sakuya goes to the lab where everyone's
they're doing
supposed
the
to be
autopsy.
at. But I believe like one of them's missing at that point, and then Ryota goes to the infirmary and finds that like the doctor has files on like a few specific students.
And it's him, Sakuya,
The Protag, Nagaki.
Yes.
And I think someone else. Maybe Anyel? Or Yuya? One of those two?
No, it's just those. I looked it up.
Okay.
And he gets knocked out.
Yeah, he sees them. Like he opens up, I think, one of them, and is like, "Oh, there's a paper here," and then gets knocked out. When he comes back to, all the files are gone.
But he does find the bloody student ID of Protag.
He does find the bloody...
Which confirms that she was dismembered there, because she was not dismembered until after she died, and the ID is bloody, so...
So Ryota basically is like, okay, well, it's clearly they did it.
Yeah.
And obviously also along the way that, like, Sakuya has been like, you know, forget about your biases towards the doctor. We got to think this out logically. Except Sakuya is like, has this respect for the doctor because like he saved his dad and all this. And also along the way, the doctor's been like, look, Ryota, you will figure this out. You just have to remember everything. And keeps like prodding him with these like little hint jabs that really isn't helping him, but makes it seem like, oh, the doctor knows more than he's letting on, which obviously, yes, of course.
Yes.
So I believe like they go back and confront again, and not a lot gets said. They confront Yuya at one point, and he's like, "Can't say anything." And the doctor kind of gives him the same thing. Basically, I think after that, Ryota goes back to Nagaki, and Nagaki kind of spills the beans on some stuff about him being like down in like the one who kind of starts the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn that like, oh well, Nagaki, that's how he died, was that he's the one that started the fire for the medical center for whatever reason, and that's how he died. Also, he makes mention that like, oh, I should have passed on from this place, but like something is keeping me here.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether that's because like there's still parts of me here or what, I don't know. And that's like that's a very clever stuff. But I think after that they go back and they confront the doctor in the infirmary.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he's like, I didn't kill her. Still didn't kill her. You can tell, you can ask me, you can ask Yuya, we didn't kill her. But also like he becomes a little bit more he also this is where he's like he starts treating Sakaya like dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, that's strange. Why is he doing that?
Yeah, he keeps basically calling him like a mongrel and like saying that he's common and all that.
And then basically gets ready to kill him.
Yeah.
But Yuya steps in and takes the blow for him. And by the time everyone shows up, this is like where Ryota's like, oh, you definitely did it. You definitely killed her. And he's like, nope, still didn't. By the way, if you want to meet me, go find the medical center. And disappears that way with the scarecrow dude.
Yep.
This time, Yuya and Sakaya get left by themselves so they can have like a heart-to-heart. Yuya reveals that Sakaya isn't like his half-brother, but his full-on brother.
Mm-hmm.
Because he basically hid the egg that would become Sakaya and destroyed the egg that would have been like the actual bloodline relative.
Yep.
And did a switcheroo and then destroyed the egg. So that's a big reveal.
He said that there was something in him that like made him want like his brother to be treated right,
Mm-hmm.
but also that it was like his way of getting revenge in the sense that like he would be raising his full brother as opposed to like his actual like blood and all. It was intense.
Because he didn't like the dad.
He didn't like the dad. Well, his dad was apparently terrible.
And like the new dad killed his old dad, his actual dad.
Right.
So there's that. And then Yuya kind of gets left to be hurt a lot. They basically reunite again, everyone, and they get the teacher.
Worth mentioning though that the scalpel was
laced
poisoned.
with like a nerve agent.
Yep.
So after that, they kind of all reunite. It is like Ryota, Sakaya, Kazuaki, and Angel, who they basically are like, they learn that like, oh, he has this thing where he's able to lure people into like his fantasies.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so strong. But eventually they're like, okay, we need to find a way to get to this medical center. There has to be some way that connects them from this main building to the next building. And then they stumble upon the place in the chemistry like prep room where it's just hidden behind a mirror. There's a door there. And they all go down there. Once down there, they run into the scarecrow again.
Well, they're told by Negaki that that's the room where they went through. That they went through that chem prep room that whenever they were doing the
Right.
research. So that's how they know to go there,
Yeah.
is because Negaki's like, yeah, by the way, you should probably check there.
Yeah.
And this must be when he reveals he can go vertical, right?
It's around this time. It may be a little bit later.
Because he can go to the room below, which is the chem prep.
Yeah.
When do we find out what the Operation Hatoful was?
Around this time,
Yeah.
I believe. Because you had
pretty
the
sure.
whole monologue from the doctor being like, oh, I'm doing all this stuff. Blah, 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 blah. So they have to fight the scarecrow, and they do that by spraying it with water and then using a stun gun on it that they got from
Yeah.
Leon. So that disables the Scarecrow, and they're able to go forward. And I believe this is where they kind of get like a bunch of the info about that. And then
He separates Ryota from the other ones.
yeah, from the teacher and Oniel.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where you learn that like the Operation Hatoful was like
biological warfare,
like getting this virus and then implanting it into a new bird to basically, because it's a virus that can kill humans like instantly.
Mm-hmm. And it was in Nagaki.
Yeah, Nagaki was the original carrier. That's why they basically experimented on him.
He got tired.
Of that, and basically was like, "I'm gonna kill myself."
And so he
burn
did.
this place down. And basically, that's what he wanted. He wanted like a way to get rid of his body completely, so that virus would be gone and no one else could use it.
Correct, because they kept bringing in humans to test it, and he kept seeing people die, and it was like destroying him mentally.
But this is where you kind of realize, oh well, they were able to recover some part of him.
Yep.
Because obviously there's still cells left, and then you get like the reveal of, well, the doctor had been tampering with Ryota's immune system to a point to where it would become compromised enough that it could accept this virus. And then like the previous day he puts it into Ryota, and then the Rotag comes and sees him, and she dies because of Ryota.
Yep. It's crazy.
It really is.
Which we suspected that we killed her somehow, but we weren't sure how.
Right.
And this is how.
Yep.
He put in the liver.
Yeah, so like basically the doctor kind of like smooth talks Ryota and be like, "Hey, you know, what's done is done. You remember the wish now. What if we just get that done? We'll figure it out together." And then like he implants Nakaki's liver into Ryota, which gives him like basically the full virus and makes Ryota go crazy.
I think before he did that, I got ahead of myself. He does the reveal of what the Scarecrow was, because this is what breaks him.
Yes, that is right. The Scarecrow was the Protag's brain in like a robot body. Yeah.
And by shocking it, he's basically done like complete and utter damage to the brain.
Supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
So basically,
so that's what breaks him.
Because he's like, "Oh, I just killed her twice. Well, nothing left to do." While all that's happening, while Ryota's like just taken care of, the doctor like puts a poison, like starts releasing a poison gas in the room where the teacher and Oniel is. And then Sakaya and I believe Okusan are the ones that show up and like get them out, and then come to confront Ryota as he's like gone crazy. And then basically they're able to get rid of him, get him back to normal.
We get another RPG
battle, which is real good. And then basically we
find out about the promise then, right?
We find out about the promise, which is like after Protag's like parents die, right?
Yeah, so what happened is that her human parents were basically like
negotiators.
Yeah, and they get shot in a like terrorist situation in this orphanage. And so Protag is outside the building with Ryota, and Ryota's basically like, I want to live in a world where the humans and the birds don't have to fight anymore. And he's like, is that your wish? And yeah, that's my wish. And then
the doctor does not do a good job of interpreting that.
Yeah, and he also misinterpreted in a way like his Ryota's dad. Because we find out that they worked together, and that like the doctor had some form of like affection for him. And when he's dying, he's like, you need to do something for my son if you ever meet him. Like, don't go out of your way to meet him, but if you ever do, like, do something for him. And Doctor's like, oh, okay, this is your wish. I can do this. No, buddy, this is not what he meant. Tragic. So, doctor's like, all right, I'm done. I'm defeated. We'll go. This is fine. That's how it ends. And then things continue to go ape.
And things get even crazier. So like they're all like, okay, well we can get everyone out now. There's a way out that will get us away from the humans and all of that. And then basically as they're getting ready to leave, the teacher pulls out a pistol and just shoots the doctor twice.
Yeah. And as like the doctor's kind of like he doesn't die, but he's kind of fading, and he's like, I remember that Nageki's only brother was also a quail. And I was like, what?
Because basically he shoots him, he's like, where's Nageki?
Yeah.
So that's the big reveal, that the teacher was Nageki's brother.
They were the only survivors of that orphanage that was basically the whole hostage situation. And the human terrorists were killing everybody in there. And basically they cornered Nageki, but his virus killed them. And then brother teacher guy was like, oh no, we're the only ones left. We'll live together. It'll be okay. We're the only family we have left.
And then they do that, and then like Nageki gets an invitation to the school. It's like, oh, well, we know a way to get him better.
Yeah, because he keeps getting sick, and it's a big burden, and he can't go to school, and he can't get a job, and it's bad.
But it's just a ploy to get the virus out of him. And then basically the day where he's going to set the fire is when Hitori or Kazawagi like basically sneaks into the medical center, is like going to get him out. And then he sees Nageki there and is like, oh, what are you doing? You should get out of there. We can go. And he's like, no, I got to stay here. I got to make sure like nothing about me stays. And basically Nageki like gives him like 2 wishes, and he's able to interpret the first one, but then the second one gets warped to where he thinks like, oh, I gotta take revenge.
Yeah, basically he like goes insane watching his like one living family member, for the most part, like die in front of him, like commit suicide in this horrific way. And then he fakes his own death and then becomes a new quail.
Yep. And then basically after that, you get this like weird scene where he traps Ryota and is like, where's the liver at? I'm going to get this. I'm going to take him back. I'm taking Nageki back. We're going to go home. We'll be fine. And then you get this whole scene of like Kazuaki like battling with his shadow self that has like taken over his heart. And then Nageki shows up and is like, hey, bro, this isn't what I wanted. What are you doing, you dummy?
What were those wishes that I said again? Please repeat them for me.
Like, there was no revenge here.
I didn't say that.
So there's a big ordeal about that, and then they get it all situated. They come back.
He finds out that like the one wish was for him to live.
Yeah. And then like they come back, everyone's like, oh, everything okay? And like, yep, it's all sorted. So like, okay, we need to get out of here now. We are out of time. And then Ryota's like, you guys go, I'll stay here. They're like, what? No,
otherwise
what?
I'll kill everybody.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Like, hey, if I leave, like everyone's gonna die. And he's basically like, hey, find a way to fix this, to reverse this, and when that happens, come get me, and I'll leave. And then basically everyone leaves, and it's just then Ryota, the ghost of Nageki, and
protagonist ghost.
The protagonist ghost or whatever.
Because he ends up like recapping everything to her, and she says something ridiculous that I can't remember what it was. It was so funny.
So you get a little like epilogue.
Yep.
Of like what everyone's been doing afterwards.
Yuya lived. Teacher is pushing Doctor around in a wheelchair.
That is true.
That was funny.
I believe Sakuya is like bankrolling these new medical advancements to try and figure out a way to get Ryota back. And then basically the end is like It's like Sake would be like, "Hey, we found something.
Yeah.
We think we got this," and then basically it cuts back to like where they're supposed to be at, and you get a little bit of dialogue between Ryota and the protag, and then you see your Sake being like, "Hey, what are you guys doing? I told you I'm a man of my word. I told you I'd come back for you guys." And that's the way the game ends.
It was crazy. It was so off the rails.
It really was.
Mm-hmm.
Because definitely, like, going into that one specifically, like, we knew it was something.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know what, because, like, there's this trophies like, oh, get the BBL ending and epilogue. And it's like, well, those are different than just the named routes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But,
And it's crazy. Like, as the protag, you're dead the whole time.
yeah, like, I wasn't expecting that.
No.
And it just, like, it's a good way to kind of, like, bring everything together that you know and also don't know, and at least you need to find answers to that haven't been revealed yet, and also just like bringing everyone's kind of routes together at a point. And it does a good job of and also just being bonkers in the way that Otome is in general.
Oh, totally. And I was really proud of myself. I called the teacher thing at one point.
Yeah.
Because I put it together. I was like, he scribbled somebody out. It's got to be him. It's got to be him. Ow, I just hurt myself.
You goof.
I got real excited.
So yeah, that's the main game.
And then we played the holiday version.
There's a bonus little kind of sequel, kind of just like expansion, companion piece, whatever you want to call it. Hot Off a Boyfriend Holiday Star. It's
the return of Butts McGee.
The return, Butts McGee's return. Essentially, this is like, hey, what if the BBL ending didn't happen, but this happened instead? Like a what if scenario.
It's an alternate.
So you get like 4 little episodes that take place during the holidays, and then 6 little mini episodes as well as some radio where you get some Q&A with the fans, which is real goofy because it's just real meta and breaks the fourth wall a lot.
And a few of your letters get read, Jared.
Yeah, it's true. My letters to Okusan.
Mm-hmm. About how much you love him.
It's true.
And that you want to eat pudding with him.
Yep. So the episodes are actually kind of chronologically in order, which is kind of not what I was expecting. I thought they would just be their own separate things, but they do kind of
I thought so too.
Move in order. The first one's about a band of thieves that are stealing Christmas trees. And you have to like figure out who they are and what they're doing and why they're stealing Christmas trees. Which is a wild ride.
There's a tank.
There's a tank at one point. You realize that Sake is very obsessed with Christmas and Christmas trees.
Mm-hmm.
The school gets bombed.
France. The school gets bombed.
And then like basically you learn that it's just the work of these 2 little critters named Miru and Kaku, and they really like Christmas.
They're like weird like bird hybrid mammal things that were created by basically it was Ryota's dad, right?
Mm-hmm. Or like the team he was on, but he's basically the one that like kind of tried to take care of them at one point.
And so the doctor takes them on because he's like, I have to do this.
But now they're Christmas terrorists because they love Christmas too much.
They love Christmas so much.
But like the showdown happens at like Saki's mansion, and like they bring a tank because they're like, we're gonna get this Christmas tree. And then like it proves like they're able to get stopped, and then the doctor learns that like that Ryota's dad was the one who kind of took care of them, and then basically decides to take them in, which is real weird. Following that, we get a little bit like around New Year's, where we get a story about Aniel and trying to break into the manga industry. So you get to go to Comiket. And then Tori spots him as like, I bet you're the one. You are exactly what I need for my magazine. And you're like, okay, well, he's going to get scouted. That's cool.
Also, Ryota is cosplaying.
Ryota is also cosplaying as like this fake Precure anime. But then they learned that like, oh, Tori is just like taking Anya's blood because he realizes what his like blood does, and just like keeps like harvesting that. And then there's this big showdown where Tori's gonna destroy the school to take out the doctor. That's still his plan.
Using the fantasies of fangirls and otaku.
And then to combat that, the protag Ryota and the teacher decide to cosplay as the anime Hatokachi Pretty Cool. And they cosplay as all of them and have to say the lines right, so they were able to do one of the show's like powers, like it's just a big shield. That's how they save the school. And they're able to like deflect one of the beams back at Tori and destroy like that building. It's real goofy. It's super goofy.
So good.
God. After that, you get one that kind of like ties together. You get the day the night slept before and the day the night slept after, where it's like, oh, there's going to be a total lunar eclipse. They're going to do an event for the school, so you get to come late at night and watch it on the rooftop.
Yay!
So everyone goes and does that, but then they all fall asleep and fall into a dream. Where
also worth mentioning that Nagaki is actually able to go.
Yes.
Because he can move vertically, so he can get to the roof.
And also, like, somehow Protag can see him, obviously, but also Ryota can see him here, and Okusan can see him here.
But Sakuya cannot.
Yes. Okusan's like, you have to be pure heart to be able to see him. So they get stuck in this dream world where, like, they go to a world where it's the holiday star. Supposedly it's the holidays all the time. And they run into the king, and he keeps giving them these little quests that they gotta do where they run into basically everyone, and they're trying to do those quests, and then once they do those, they'll go home. But eventually they figure out, oh, well, we do the quests, but then we can't get home.
There's no platform.
It turned to pre-dawn, but then it's nighttime again. And then, like, the next half of the episode, or the second half of the story, which is like the fourth episode, is like, well, how do we get back home? And it basically turns into Tori, Yuya, and Leon being like, well, we got to infiltrate dreams. Tori's got to shoot at the moon to get the clouds out of the way and get them all to wake back up so they don't go into vegetative states.
It's intense.
It is very intense. And basically it just turns to like, oh, well, this is a fake star that the king made because he was real sad because he got befriended by this dude who basically just killed him, and then decided he didn't want to be lonely anymore, so he kind of lured in a bunch of dead souls and then had them all come into his own being so they'd all be one person.
It was so dark.
It was real weird and dark.
Like, he just kept repeating at one point, like, I want to die, I want to die, I want to die, I want to die. I was like, oh my god!
It got real dark at one point. Holy boy. But basically you gotta defeat him, and Nagaki's the one who has to basically destroy the fake star, because he's like... Because the king's very scared of him.
Yeah.
And I guess it's because he's kind of dead anyways, and is like, well, I have friends, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, he's dead and has friends, so he's a scary person.
Yeah. So they're able to do that and eventually get back. But then along the way, like, there's been this character they called the Migrant.
Yep.
They just keep running into, and basically gets revealed that, like, oh, that's Ryota's dad, who's just like just going along for adventures throughout his afterlife, and is able to convince the king to, like, hey, you know, we'll figure this out. Hey, that's part of adventure. You know, the train's not that bad. We'll have a bunch of people here with us. It'll be A-okay. You'll make friends, and we'll go on an adventure.
He gives Ryota like a little jewel, and he gives the doctor a fossil.
Yeah. And then basically they're able to get back home and wake back up and not be super dead.
Yeah, it's intense. I mean, like, they all have to kind of like face themselves to break out of the egg and decide they want to go home.
Especially,
and then we get short stories.
Yeah, but just in general, like, especially just for like a weird like holiday thing, like I think it captures like just the spirit of like crazy Satome and
Oh yeah,
just
totally.
super wacky storytelling, but that is basically in line with the original game as well, and it's real fun.
And
Especially,
the threat of being cooked by the doctor is still there.
yep, totally is. So the short episodes are you get to go to the shrine with everyone,
Hmm.
and you can basically view those with like the regular bird images or their human sprites that they are shown basically once in the main game, and then this is like you get a little bit more of that.
Yep.
Uh, Outside of that, you get the Legamatine Chronicles, or however you pronounce that. You get to
Beans.
talk about beans, where Tori tries to steal all the beans because no one gives him beans on this day. And it's Protag and Okusan be like, what the stop. There's another one called the Midnight Attack of the Nightmare, where it's about Aniel being like, all right, I'm going to go watch the lunar eclipse. It's going to be great. I can't wait. And like we were talking about this, like, well, wait, he wasn't there. He never showed up.
Yep.
And this goes into why he doesn't show up, where he just like, he goes back home and his mom's like, hey, we're going to have dinner. Are you still going to school later tonight? And he's like, yeah. Like, we'll come down and eat here soon. So he goes eats dinner and then passes out. And his mom's just like, oh, you kid. So
I'm trying to remember the phrasing that he used, like the dark demon.
the dark demon of fatigue.
Yeah, fatigue. Yeah, and
Real good.
he says that his eyelids are weak.
And just passes out.
Yep, he sleeps the whole time. His mom tries to wake him up to her credit, but
But he's
he didn't.
out.
He didn't get to go. He was so sleepy.
uh Albert's secret, which Albert is the butler Sakuya who you meet in this game, and you learn that he's an assassin
Yep.
that was originally supposed to kill Sakuya, but then he saves Sakuya, and then Sakuya's like, hey, why don't you become, I'll hire you, you can try and kill me, I'll give you the signal whenever, but also this is a way that you can protect me. Mm-hmm.
He is obsessed with contracts.
Yes, he's obsessed with legalese and contracts, and if people void the contracts, he's very bummed.
Because Sakuya, like one of Sakuya's half siblings' mom was like trying to get him killed.
Mm-hmm.
That the butler wasn't doing his job right, so she hired somebody else, which then voided the contract.
He kept going on like, well, the person who sent this contract to me voided it, so I guess there's nothing else I can do.
And like he didn't have to keep his secrecy anymore because she voided the contract. So he just made his own contract with him. He's like, I am it.
All the while, Yuya was like, you know, that guy's real shady. Like, I should look into him. And he finds out he's insane. He's like, oh god, he's gonna kill him. Because he sees him outside with like a knife that goes and then goes to the bathroom. But like, it was Saki who was like, hey, I need to scare the two kids, the two little dove hybrids, because they're just keep going into my bath. There's one called Preliminary Inspection, where the teachers go on a tour of Kyoto.
This was really weird.
Which is weird because it has Hattori, Kazuaki, and Shu, but Hattori and Kazuaki are the same person.
Yep.
So that was strange.
It's basically like a tour of Kyoto and like what you should see if you go.
If you want to go see birds.
If you want to see birds, yes.
And then The Day the Night Slept After, which is a bunch of like bonus scenes from that final episode that you get to see a little bit afterwards of like them being on the train, what the fossil said, and just some other little tiny bonus things here and there. And yeah, that's basically it.
It was crazy. This entire thing has just been something I was not expecting.
Yeah. Like I said at the beginning, like I knew this thing was weird, but man, I'm kind of bummed that like it took me so long now to play this, because like it, rightfully so, is very good.
It's very good. I'm really sad that I had not played it until now, but I usually don't play games on my computer.
Right. I think it definitely made it more fun that we did it together, so we could like
I
revel
agree.
in the wackiness and have someone like just riff off of and make jokes the entire time. It made it a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, it
But
was
yeah,
really fun.
that was a wild wild ride.
I'm so glad we played it.
Yeah. I mean, if you are also looking to get into this, I think it's you can get it on PC and PS4 and Vita. Like, I think it's pretty cheap. Like, I don't think it costs that much to get. So,
And honestly, like a lot of what is so good about this is the dialogue that we literally can't get into everything because like that we'd be here for days.
yeah, the writing is fantastic.
The writing is so good, and that is why I like it so much. Like the story is fantastic, yes, the characters are great, but like the writing is just spot on, hilarious.
Like, it goes into like it breaks the fourth wall. It gets very meta. They talk about like, oh, if you want to know about this thing, you should find this thing that wasn't released in English. Oh, whoops. Like, they just do stuff like that. And in general, like, it's just very witty, very good dialogue that I'm not sure I was just necessarily going to expect coming from this type of thing.
No, it was really good. And we learned that the protag is a hunter-gatherer.
Yes, she is a hunter-gatherer. Her blood boils.
She's also obsessed with weaponry.
She is, yeah.
It's great.
There's a point where, like, oh, she goes hunting with a copper sword, and one of them's like, isn't that kind of counterintuitive? Because it would just be a blunt, or like it wouldn't do anything and cut. And like, oh, she just likes to hit them and like use like bludgeon them to death.
Yeah,
like,
it was
what
great.
Are you doing? I mean, she lives in a cave, so
it was a great game.
It's really good. Like, I very much enjoyed it, and I think I mean, obviously, if you've played Otome, you will definitely enjoy this. But I think even if you haven't, like, and just like,
yeah, because I mean, you've played like one Otome.
Yeah, I played Code Realize.
Yeah, and like you were really into this too, and it did its job of cheering me up, but also like it went way beyond just cheering me up because it was genius.
I think like if you want like a soft introduction to Otome, like this is
Yeah.
a very good one of those.
I agree with that.
Because it's a parody, it's comical, but also it is very
It's
much
through
one of
through
these.
Otome.
Yes. So like if you've heard any of our episodes and have been like, those sound interesting, but like I don't know. Like this is the one to get. This is the one to at least try, I would say. So yeah, 2 thumbs up.
Because I have 2 thumbs as well.
It's true. 4 thumbs up. I think that's gonna wrap this episode up then.
Yeah, I guess we should go eat some pudding.
We should definitely go find the pudding god and do that. Hey, if you'd like more from us, go to seasonanimecheckup.com or scc.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like the Season Anime Checkup and Jared Now Watch. And you can find columns and reviews on the site as well. You can find my columns on crunchyroll.com as well. That's a place to go. You can find more from Al at anladium.com. She has columns and reviews of her own. You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/animecheckup. It's where we do Twitter, and it's where you can find the official ranking of Otome.
It's true.
It's true.
And I might update it.
You can follow us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA, if you would like to support this podcast. Hey, dollar might not seem like a lot, but it does wonders for us. Next week, we will come up with something. We have ideas, we have the list, but we also have like some games that we have played that we can talk about. There's options. We just haven't.
There are.
We didn't set things in stone for this podcast until last night, so.
Yeah, it was literally like, what should we do?
Yeah, we'll figure something out. It'll be. Oh. Next week, we'll talk to you about some anime.
Oh yeah. I'm about this life.
We're gonna have an episode about one of the surprise hits of the spring season. We will talk to you about Caligula.
Mm-hmm.
So look forward to that next week.
Yeah.
And until then, I don't know, we'll read up a bunch on philosophy and psychology and all that stuff.
Use it to hit on girls.
Use it to hit on girls in a swan boat.